Should is not loud. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't shout at you from across the room or barrel through your door. It's a whisper behind your thoughts, a persistent nudge at the base of your spine. It walks beside you in the grocery store, sits with you in traffic, wraps itself around your thoughts as you try to fall asleep. You don't remember inviting it in, but there it is, always. Subtle. Heavy. Constant. It says, you should have gotten up earlier before you even open your eyes. It says, you should have answered that email as you sip your coffee. It says, you should be grateful when you feel overwhelmed. Should doesn't demand. It guilts. And guilt is far more effective than force. It doesn't push you from behind. It makes you carry its weight until your spine bends to match its shame. That's the first lie of should, that it's useful, that it motivates, that it improves you. But most of the time, it just steals your ability to be present, satisfied, or enough. It whispers about the person you haven't become, the life you haven't lived, and convinces you you're failing at something you never agreed to pursue. We don't create our shoulds. We inherit them. They come from childhood, passed down by people who meant well but didn't know better. Parents who were scared. Teachers who were rigid. Cultures obsessed with productivity, performance, and proof. Each one hands us a brick. You should be polite. You should be obedient. You should get straight A's. You should get married by 30. You should want children. You should work harder. You should work less. Brick by brick we build a cage. Eventually, we forget we're inside it. The worst part? Many of these shoulds are contradictory. You should be confident but not arrogant. You should be ambitious but not aggressive. You should be sexy but modest, tough but tender. Hustle but don't forget self-care. Grind but don't burn out. Lead but don't overshadow. Speak up but don't be too loud. So we contort ourselves into impossible shapes, chasing an ever-shifting ideal that was never ours to begin with. We inherit shoulds as a survival tactic. We keep them because we're afraid of what will happen if we stop. We all carry around an image of who we're supposed to be, an ideal self. This version of you is flawless, successful, calm, gracious, ripped, balanced, wise, hilarious, rich, respected, and deeply admired. This ideal self has a 6-figure salary, drinks green smoothies, meditates for an hour a day, and never says anything regrettable on social media. They read a book a week, work out daily, call their parents, respond to every message, journal before bed, and still have time to volunteer on weekends. They are not real, but should tells you they are. And worse, it tells you that you could be them, if only you tried harder. If only you were more disciplined. If only you were less lazy. If only you stopped making excuses so you keep chasing this fantasy self. You hustle for it. You guilt trip yourself into routines. You punish yourself for slipping. And no matter how close you get, the finish line moves. Should builds its power on this illusion that the ideal self is just out of reach, and your failure to reach it is your own fault. But maybe the real problem isn't that we're not trying hard enough. Maybe the problem is that we're chasing something that doesn't exist. Here's the loop: you tell yourself you should do something. You don't. You feel bad. You call yourself lazy or unmotivated. You double down with new goals. You still don't do them. You feel worse. It's not that you're weak. It's that shame doesn't create change. It creates paralysis. It disconnects you from your own body, your own desires, your own instincts. And then it convinces you that the only way out is through more shame. It's a trap, perfectly designed to keep you stuck. And the shame spiral often masquerades as self-improvement. But it's not growth. It's punishment. It's beating yourself into submission, calling it motivation, and wondering why you feel so tired all the time. We don't change because we hate ourselves. We change because we love ourselves enough to imagine something better. But the voice of should doesn't know how to love. It only knows how to criticize. Should is seductive because it offers clarity. It pretends to give you a map: do this, become that. Follow these rules, get these rewards. Obey the algorithm and success is guaranteed. But life doesn't work like that. There are no formulas. There is no universal script. The map is always drawn in pencil, and the terrain shifts under your feet as you walk. Yet should offers a false sense of control, and, in a chaotic world, that's comforting. You may feel miserable, but at least you know what's expected of you. You may feel hollow, but at least you're doing what you're supposed to. That illusion of order is hard to give up. It's easier to cling to should than face the terrifying truth that maybe there is no right way. Just your way. And your way can't be downloaded, diagrammed, or universally praised. That level of freedom? It's terrifying. But it's also the only way to live. The first act of rebellion is to ask, according to who? You start to question each should like an interrogator. Who says I need to have kids to be fulfilled? Who says success looks like a corner office? Who says I should be over my grief by now? Who says rest is earned, not essential? Who benefits from me believing this? You begin to realize that most shoulds aren't neutral. They serve someone. They keep certain systems running. They keep certain people comfortable. They keep you in line. So maybe you start saying no more often. Not because you're angry, but because you're awake. Maybe you stop apologizing for your joy. Maybe you stop dimming your light. Maybe you cancel the subscription to shame. Maybe you start writing your own rules. This isn't selfish. It's sacred. Because when you stop performing the life you should have, you begin to live the one you actually want. To untangle from should is to disappoint people. You will. It's inevitable. Some people only love the version of you that makes them comfortable. The version that complies. The version that agrees. The version that doesn't rock the boat. You will disappoint your parents, your friends, your mentors, your fans, your followers. You will disappoint the voices in your own head. And it will hurt. But you have to ask yourself, what's the greater loss? Their comfort, or your soul? Because every time you betray yourself to keep the peace, you start a war inside. And sometimes, the only way to be free is to be misunderstood. To be judged. To be talked about. To be unfollowed. But the cost of their approval is too high if it requires abandoning your truth. There is a strength in choosing your truth over their expectations. It's the kind of strength that reshapes your entire life. When you strip away should, what's left? At first, maybe nothing. A terrifying silence. A blank space. No direction, no path, no certainty. Just the raw, buzzing hum of your own aliveness. But sit with it. Don't rush to fill it. Over time, something else begins to emerge. Your voice. Your compass. Your knowing. It speaks a different language than should. It doesn't shame. It doesn't guilt. It invites. It whispers not what you should do, but what you want to do. What feels aligned. What feels true. What feels right in your gut. This compass doesn't lead you toward perfection. It leads you toward authenticity. You start to make decisions from a place of resonance. You stop asking what's expected. You start asking what's honest. That's how you build a life that feels like yours. Letting go of should isn't a one-time decision. It's a practice. A daily dismantling. You catch yourself in the act, judging, rushing, pushing. And you pause. You ask, wait, who told me I needed to do this? Sometimes you keep doing the thing. Sometimes you stop. The point isn't perfection. The point is awareness. You build new muscles. The muscle of discernment. The muscle of permission. The muscle of saying, this is enough. Over time, the weight of should lightens. Not because the world changes, but because your relationship to it does. And slowly, subtly, you start to notice a new energy moving through you. Not urgency. Not fear. But peace. Possibility. Freedom. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to love yourself. Not for who you should be, but for who you are. A life without should isn't perfect. It's messier, more uncertain, more human. But it's yours. It's a life where you rest when you're tired. Where you leave when it's toxic. Where you create without comparing. Where you forgive yourself for being in process. Where success isn't measured by external trophies, but by internal alignment. It's a life where you say yes, because you mean it. Where you say no without guilt. Where your values, not your fears, make your decisions. Where your joy matters. Where your pain is honored. Where your truth is sacred. It's a life rooted in agency, not obligation. And here's the secret. When you let go of should, you don't become selfish. You become real. And real people, whole people, are the ones who change the world. Not by conforming, but by choosing. So let this be your invitation. To stop performing. To stop apologizing. To stop chasing ghosts. Let this be the moment you place the word should down at your feet, look it in the eye and say, I'm done with you. Then walk away. Not toward perfection, but toward yourself. If you agree. Ink. Rage. Repeat. Share, like, and subscribe. See you next time.